Welcome to the Wild Holy podcast, where we explore the intersections of spirit, story, and the soul. We're so glad that you're here. Each conversation that we have here invites us to listen more closely to the ways that the holy moves through our ordinary lives, sometimes through beauty, sometimes through breakdown, but always through transformation. So today we're joined by someone whose story embodies that kind of transformation. Jess Leone is an energy practitioner, an intuitive guide, and a community builder whose work centers on helping women return to their bodies, to their power, and to their joy. Before this chapter of her life began, Jess was an EMT and 911 dispatcher. When burnout and grief cracked open her old identity that she had built previously, she began following what she calls divine breadcrumbs. And so we'll learn more about that in a little bit.
Mhm.
These nudges from spirit eventually led Jess to Tea and Tarot in Madison, which is a curated herbal tea shop that hosts tarot readings and other esoteric services, and as well as into her own practice, where she leads women's circles, full moon gatherings, and somatic experiences that take on healing in a serious yet playful way. Her work invites us to unlearn the good girl conditioning and to get rid of stories that keep us small. So,
Mm.
Jess, welcome to the Wild Holy podcast. We're grateful to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. It's really weird hearing an intro about yourself where it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's kinda cool. Yeah, I do that. That's neat, right?" Um, I'm so excited to have this conversation, and I know we were connected through Tea and Tarot initially, and it's very cool that we get to actually have this conversation now, so thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So, well, maybe we could start off telling us your background as an EMT and a 911 dispatcher. Tell us
Yeah,
about that moment where your old identity, when you let it go, it broke you up into something new.
yeah. So there was a lot leading into that moment, and I didn't realize it until it actually happens, and I feel like that's a lot of things when you have these major breakthroughs. It's, like, so obvious it's staring you in the face, but there's a culmination of a lot of things that had to happen before I got there, and truly, I believed my worth was only like, I equated my worth to what I could like, my output, right? And I think a lot of women can relate to this. So, I basically grew up in a firehouse. My home was not a place that felt safe or anywhere I wanted to be. And, my bonus parents, my bonus dad, I call him, he was a firefighter. So, I grew up around camaraderie. I grew up around, like, family, and I felt like the only way for me to have that was to also be that. So, I took that path. I became an EMT. I got injured on the road and took a 911 dispatching job because it wasn't physical. And I remember when I accepted the job, I called my now husband, but my boyfriend at the time, and was like, I don't really want to do this. I feel like I have to. And he's like, well, you don't have to do anything. And I'm like, no, I feel like I have to. And I very much ignored what my body was telling me. And I did it for about a year. And I really sucked at it, number one. Number two, it was the wrong side of the radio. And I recognized that I was someone who was really thrived in chaos, and I always prided myself on that, and I was like, "If I can't see what's happening, then I can't help," right? And finally, I got a couple bad calls back to back and decided, like, I don't think I can do this anymore, and it was Halloween, I'll never forget. It was Halloween 2020. So we're in the middle of the pandemic. And I remember getting ready for work and I had a full blown panic attack. And I didn't have those a lot back then because I wasn't really in my body then, like I am now. And I remember I like saw red. And my husband was like, again, not my husband at the time, but he's like, just quit. We'll figure it out. Just, you can't keep going on like this. So I wrote my resignation letter as I was sitting at my job, handed it in at the end of my shift, and they're like, "We don't need you to come back. It's okay. We'll let you know." And I'm like, "Okay." So I remember I got in my car and I was driving home and I recorded myself because I sent it to my friend and I was like, "I feel like I'm gonna want to remember this." And I was like, "I think that was my last night. I just left my really good on paper career, the pension, the everything. I don't know what the fuck I just did. Like, I can't believe I just did this." And I got out of my car and I parked at our apartment complex. It was a full moon, and I just like fell to my knees and I looked up at the sky, and it was like could just hear like the pain is the medicine. Like, there's a reason why this is
Mm.
all happening. There's a reason why this happened. Everything happened the way that it did. And I just decided to trust the nudge. And then 6 years now later, so much has happened since then. So much of my old identity has unraveled. And I'm still like a recovering people pleaser. I'm still a recovering good girl, as I like to call it. By no stretch of the imagination am I, um, there. But I feel like I am so many steps ahead in a place where like I can help lead other women to like see the pattern, right? Even if I'm still in it and experiencing it, I'm like, hey, ho, ho, let's look at that. Let's look at that. Do we need to be doing that? Do we need to be saying it that way? Right. So it has been the wildest like 6 years, going on 6 years of my life. And I feel like I did more healing than I did business. I never started this to start a business. It just kind of happened. But I realized a lot of my identity was tied up in that career of like just emergency medicine. And deconstructing that and like really looking at who is Jess without these things is been something I'm still doing and I'm actively doing right now. So in a different way, in a different identity. So it's there's a lot of layers to this for sure.
Mhm.
So that's the long short version of your of your question.
Well, speaking of layers, I know
Yeah.
I want to get into some of your young life.
Yeah.
And you have an interesting spiritual and intuitive heritage as well. So,
Yeah.
do you mind speaking about that?
Yeah. So, oh God, where do I even start? So, my great aunt is considered the Witch of Worcester Street. And if you know Connecticut, if you know New Haven, you probably know our pizza. Worcester Street is where it's at. And my aunt, she's 108 now.
Wow.
So, she started in her early 20s. So, her husband went off to war, and they had an apartment on Worcester Street. She doesn't live there anymore. She just moved more recently, but what she would do was give tarot readings for 20 bucks. And it didn't matter how long you were there. It didn't matter, it was a flat rate, 20 bucks. And she would tell me that like people would come see her like all hooded up and like would sneak in
Yeah.
her house. Cause you're talking about the
Yeah.
1920s, you know what I mean? Like this was a very different time. So, um, you know, I remember being in first grade and getting my first tarot reading from her, and she figured out that there was a boy that I liked, and like, but like to a degree of which she should not have known. Like it was just like crazy. And she said to me, I'll never forget. She was like, "I was born with a veil,"
Mm.
and she explained this to be like this other sense that she had, and that I was born with it too, but I didn't quite understand what that meant. And from a very young age, it was around the same time that like I would see things that weren't there. And that turned into actually a really scary experience because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it but her. And she was not somebody that I saw a lot. Um, so I very much struggled alone in some ways. And I don't mean, I don't know how deep we want to get here, but uh, it
Well,
was
I'm
essentially,
curious. I'm
yeah,
curious what's the nature of some of the things that you saw that you couldn't explain that you really needed
yes.
somebody to talk to you about?
So I remember seeing a lot of symbols and numbers around me a lot. Didn't understand what that meant. Um, I remember once I saw a man hanging in our tree in our backyard, like literally hanging from his neck.
Ugh,
And
that's
I remember
traumatic.
saying that. Yeah, yeah. So I remember saying that to my mom out loud, and she's like, "There's nobody in the tree, honey. I don't know what you know what I mean." And that
Ugh.
obviously really scared her. So what happened though, because this is the 90s, I was brought to a child psychologist, and was
Mm.
threatened with needles because they knew that I was really like deathly afraid of them. So they thought they would scare it out of me. Um, I remember dreaming about 9/11, not exactly as it happened, but I remember dreaming about a war that was going to happen. And I remember my
Huh.
dad telling me, like, you can't, that's not possible. You can't dream that. You can't think of those things.
Mhm.
That's not possible. um, and I also, at the time, there was a lot of, as I'd mentioned earlier, there was a lot of things going on in my house that um, it ended up actually turning into, like, I almost, like, created this, what I would call, like, a grim reaper. I didn't create it on purpose. It was actually, I found out way later in life, like, literally last year, um, this thing that was created was this trauma that I was experiencing, and I was being, like, traumatized by it. Like, I couldn't sleep. I would have, like, night terrors. It would follow me at school. Like, it was this
Mm.
whole thing, and I again had no language for what was happening to me. And my therapist was like, that's called a hypnagogic response. That's a traumatic response to a lot of trauma you were experiencing. So it literally physically manifested itself into something.
Huh.
So I just struggled with this alone. And because I didn't have the support of my parents, I didn't have the support of anyone outside of me. I literally just had to like shut it down because I was like, and I don't know how I did it. I don't, and it was such a long time ago. And there was such a long period of time where like, um, I shut down a lot of connection to anything. And
How old do you think you were at that time, at the
I was
height
in
of all of this?
first grade, second grade, so I don't
Oh,
know how old you are
Yeah.
then, but that's it's pretty
still very
young.
young. Yeah.
Yeah.
6, 7 years
And
old.
I would say like probably 7. And following that, I had a really hard time in school. I had a really hard time connecting to other kids. I was bullied a lot.
Mm.
Um, and even through like all of elementary school, pretty much into middle school, and something in me finally snapped, and I started like defending myself finally. But it was a very weird time in my life. It
Yeah,
was
so
very weird.
it sounds like you have always have a connection to the other side of whatever it is that we can't quite see. And so so it sounds like out of a need to protect yourself and be able to function in this world, you learned how to shut that down for the time
Yeah,
being.
it was
Um,
survival. Yeah, I
mm,
mean, survival mode with, particularly my mom. Like I was in like just in survival mode constantly as a child. Um, so that was just like another layer that I was like, I have to shut it down. This isn't like, as much as I can to keep myself safe is what I did. Um, and then, as you get older, like I would do like readings for my friends in high school. That's what I just started to experiment and play around. And then I would start seeing things again. Like I would start seeing people that weren't there. And I was like, oh God, I don't know what this is. Am I going
yeah.
nuts? You know what I mean? I'm like, what is going on? And I remember that I don't remember when exactly in high school, but I remember sitting down and being like, why are you doing this to me again? Like, I don't want to see
Mm.
this. I don't understand this. And I remember being led through this experience of uh, being in the Holocaust. And because we were learning about it in school, and I felt really connected to the war. And I didn't understand why. And I saw myself living out this life in the Holocaust, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I started to put 2 and 2 together that, like, the things that I was seeing, the people I was seeing were other people's lives that they had lived.
Mm.
And then I kinda just put a pin in that because I was like, "I don't know what to do with that. We're just
Yeah.
gonna leave that there." Um, but then I started having these dreams of these past lives that I had, and and explained a lot of the feelings that I was having. Like, I died in the ocean. I was at war, and I died in an ocean, and I was like, that must be why I'm like deathly afraid of the ocean. And after I really unpacked that, I'm much more comfortable. I'm still scared, but I have a deeper understanding as to why. So I started to explore past life stuff as I got older. Um, so I feel like as I'm talking about this out loud, I don't know if I've ever talked about it, my history with all of this out loud in this way. I'm like, oh yeah, like this really has been something that has just unfolded very
Mm.
organically over the last 30 years, literally 30 years. Like I remember being in the crib and seeing things. People are like, you're not supposed to be able to remember experiences from when you're like 6, 7, 8 months old. I'm like, I remember standing up in my crib and
Mm,
seeing things. Like, I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how I would have made that up, right? So it has been quite the journey since then. And it's been really it does play into, how I show up and how I help guide other women in their experiences too. I just have like this toolbox, I think we all
mm,
do.
Mhm.
So it's been very useful, but it's been a very I mean, there's more to the story that that's a little darker, that I don't know if I really want to get into, but as a kid, but it's been going back to like the pain is the medicine. Like, I don't regret any of it because it serves a purpose. The pain now is something that is the medicine that helps other
mm,
people. So for me, it's like I don't have any regrets. I don't sit and question like, why did this happen to me? I've come to such a place of like understanding with it now. And of course I still have some anger and some hurt and some questions. I'm still human at the end of the day, but
mhm.
it has shaped so much of my experience and how I show up. So I don't regret it. I don't regret any of it.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, you had lots of layers of intensity, and
Mhm.
then being an EMT is really intense work.
Yeah.
How were you kind of like how was the veil in operation when you were meeting people and trying to help people in their really intense life and death moments?
I think what shined through the most, was my empathy
Mm,
for other people. And I, f- I think about like, it's like flashes through my mind, like all of like the worst shit I've ever seen. And I think that being able to just talk people through like some of the worst days of their lives,
mhm,
um, I think yes, having these experiences has helped shape that. But I think it's again like being in that field has just helped me empathize with people so much and
mm,
see people in their humanness, and accept and try to like love people in their humanness, because there's this concept of like, especially when we're working on ourselves and we're trying to figure things out, um we're all walking red flags. Nobody has this shit figured out. No one. So, if someone's like, I'm going to consciously work on this thing, and they fuck up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I think, yes, there is a level of like, if somebody is like a narcissist or is a really unhealthy person in your life, like there are layers. Again, everything has layers. But like, when I think about my relationship with my husband, like there are so many things we've had to figure out so many times, whereas the couple next to us has already gotten divorced and moved on. Right? So it's like I think really having these base experiences, of just having this really challenging childhood has just helped me like love other people and have a lot of empathy for other people and what they're going through. Because I think when you don't really have it hard, you don't have anything to like, right? Like your
Mhm.
mm,
hard helps you appreciate the good that you have. Um,
Mhm.
and so it's my big thing I'm trying to do now is like, how do I stay present? And I think that's the big thing, especially when you're in a crisis and in an emergency, you
mm,
have to like handle what's at hand right in front of you.
Mhm.
Um, and it forced me to be present and to like figure out what's needed.
mm,
And I'm trying to transfer that more into like my everyday existence, because I think I struggle so much with like, I want this big, expansive, incredibly beautiful, crazy life. And it's like, Jess, you already have that. Like, I think
Mhm.
we think it's supposed to look a certain way. And I'm like, no, like, life is extraordinary right now in this moment with the two of you. Like, being able to
mm,
do this is like living. This is living.
mhm,
And I think I've been trying to outrun my past by saying like, look what you did. Look at all the great things that you've been able to do in spite of all the bad shit that happened to you. And I keep trying to prove myself to myself. And that's what I'm unpacking right now, where I'm like, no,
Mhm.
life's great right now. Like everything's
Mm.
good right now. And as somebody who struggled deeply with depression and anxiety, like that the most when I was an EMT and, even as a 911 dispatcher, like I used to call them brother and sister, where like anxiety like got me out of bed because I needed to pay bills, but depression wanted to keep me in it. So it's like this force of nature that was just this vicious cycle. And I have, again, just so much empathy for that girl because she was really, really struggling to um, see the point in it all. And I think one step further, if we fast forward to now in the world that we're living in, I think women are like, especially women, like we're all just fucking mad. Like we're all like angry and we have this grief and we also have our own stuff that we're holding. So it's like, again, it's just like this interesting place to be now of like, how can I stay present in all of this madness? So
I love how you're trying to be in the present moment more every day, but how do you do it in the hard times when you're dealing with anxiety or depression? How do you stay present to the stuff when it's really hard? I imagine
mm,
that you've probably thought a lot about this and it's part of the work that you do with other people as well. So I'm curious your hot take on that.
um, yeah. So I I lived that. I lived that. So um there was a point um where I just wanted to end it all. I was done. And I remember ooh, I remember being at a gas station. My again boyfriend at the time, husband now, was getting gas, and it was raining out. And I went to this gas station bathroom, and I looked at myself, and I was like, "All right." And I formulated this plan that I was going to fly to the Grand Canyon with my dog, and I was just gonna I was gonna end it all. And I got home, and I remember like crawling back into bed, and my dog at the time, she's not with us anymore, but she jumped up on the bed with me, and I was like, I can't leave her. She would never know what happened to me. And I love her so much. I could never do something like this to her. And it was love that saved my life, really. So when I think about being in like the absolute darkest of dark and like in the worst moments of my life, what I learned through therapy, because I obviously needed it, was you have to focus on very, very small things that you can control.
Mm.
Because if everything around you feels out of control, y- it's like, especially when like that's the only thing you can really see. It's like, how can we take a step back and go, okay, wait a minute. So my steps that I had to do every day was get out of bed, make your bed,
Mm.
brush your hair, brush your teeth, and go walk the dog. I had 5 things I had to do every day. And I did that for weeks. Weeks turned into months. And
Mm.
that's literally all I could bring myself to do. And like, so again, like thinking about that version of myself now is just fucking wild. It's wild to me. So I would say to anybody, find small things that you can control because at the end of the day, I think that is why we struggle so much with like mental health is everything it feels insurmountable and we don't have any part in it. Like
Mm,
we don't like I don't have, you want to talk about you want to touch the Epstein files. Like when you think about that as like a concept, you're
yeah,
like, what do I even do with that? How
yeah.
do I even process that at an even like a minimal level? It's our minds can't even, right? So you're like, okay, well, what can I control? Well, how can I show up for my local community once a week? Is it going to a food pantry? Is it volunteering at a diaper bank? Is it um, making kits for women that are, single parents, right? Like if there's a thing that bothers you, that you're like, you right, like there's something you can do about helping your neighbor, helping like your corner of the world. So when I think about it, and because it's too much, I'm like, how can I just pour into the community that I have? How
Mhm.
can I create more community, create more conversations, rituals, whatever it is
Mhm.
that help my community, my local community, get back in their body and feel like
Mhm.
they can set a boundary, and how they can feel good about just showing up and just being a woman right now. So I'm like, because I can't fix the big thing. I
Yeah.
can't do anything about the big thing,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, what I can do, it starts at home. It starts with your four walls. It starts with how you show up and treat people. So it's like little things. It's not like this big thing that's gonna. There was not one big thing that happened. It was a small decision to realize that love could be enough to save my life.
Mm.
Small decision, big impact. Big
Mhm.
impact on
Mhm.
my life, the people's lives that I would have affected if I decided to leave, right? It's like they are actually small things, and it's the small things that matter. And I want to scream it from the mountaintops, um, that life, and as it's happening now, is as it's supposed to be happening. And in some ways, as fucked up as it all is, it, it has to crumble so we can do something better with it. And it needs to get bad so we can do something good about it, unfortunately. And um, not that I think that this, I don't want to get on tangents on, but you know what I mean? It's like the bad in the world shows you the contrast of like, there is a lot of good, and we get to create the good. We have choice. We have decisions that we can make it better for other people. And that, because you can't change the world, but you
Well,
can change your corner.
speaking of contrasts, your victim to villain program, or
Yeah.
that idea that you kind of sit with and bring women through this idea of going from victim to villain. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that. What is that? Where did it come from? And
Yeah.
yeah, tell us more.
Yeah. So, um, the idea came from the dark femme, like, which is what, we talked about today,
Mhm.
of like, what we, our, this concept of like, what is the dark feminine? Like, what does that mean? And I had, I call it the mass casualty of Jess Leone, in the best way possible. I had I had a really unfortunate circumstance rip through my entire life. The same year I got married, same year I bought a house, same year I turned 30, I had a mass exit of, I had to close two businesses. I lost a whole subset of friends, a community. It was absolutely wild, like ripped me right open. And it was because I set a boundary. And never in my life have I seen like my whole life just fucking unravel from saying, like, I'm all set. I'm not doing this anymore. I need to take a step back. And it was like a bomb went off. And in that, I shared with Heather, owner of Tea and Tarot. Her and I are like our besties. And she's like, I feel like you need to do something with this. Like, you need to turn this into, she's like, I've been on TikTok. This was a couple years ago. Like, I'm on TikTok, and I see all these, there's like mob wife era and like soft girl era. She's like, you're in your villain era right now. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, yes, I am. And I'm like, but I don't know what you mean. You know what I mean? She's like, no, you need to teach people about like how to step into their villain era. I'm like, how am I going to do that when I'm just doing that myself? She's like,
Mm.
that's because you are the perfect person to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it's evolved to like this, like 3 hour thing I did on a Friday night to like, it's 3 classes now. That's 3 hours. I have a community that I've built outside of it. And it's this breaking down of this, what I call good girl conditioning. Um, we are taught very early on that our worth is tied to how easily we can be managed, and
Mhm.
Mm.
how we can be agreeable, how we can be accommodating, and don't be too loud, don't take up too much space, don't make people uncomfortable, right? So there's this all this conditioning that once we can actually like take a moment and look at it for what it is and we start to question it, um, yeah, we do often get labeled as like selfish or intimidating or dramatic or difficult. And um learning to be okay with that and like so there's this nervous system piece of like you have to be able to sit in that discomfort of like being okay with that. So it's like the
Yeah.
unlearning of that of the conditioning, but also it's like the teaching the nervous system that it's okay to be that and that the whole world is not going to fall apart. My world did fall apart when I did this, but if it didn't, I would never be where I am now. So it's like
Mm.
if it's fragile, just like let it break. Like if it's not actually for my highest good, and what's so funny about that, even like one step further, every year I do this manifestation letter workshop. And in the letter, it was I'll never fucking forget. It was January 1, and I'm like, universe, remove people, places, things that are not in my highest alignment. Like I went in, okay. I was like, this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. And the universe went, bet. And like 20 days later, this whole thing happened. My whole life blew up. I was like, no, 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 no. Wait a minute. And it was like, you asked for this. Like, and I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't realize what I was asking for. So it's really is so funny because it's like when you have audacity to change your life, like that's all you need, just like a little bit of audacity and a little bit of delusion. Um, I swear that
Right.
is the that is
Right.
the that is the that is
I
the
can see that, yeah.
equation to getting anything you really want in
Mhm.
life. And so just realizing that like I could have this whole like I'm sitting in a room right now that I converted into a space where like I host women multiple times a month and we talk about everything and anything. There's really like nothing that's off the table in here. And when you can come into a space and you like don't have to perform and you don't have to be a certain way, you don't have to act a certain way, you don't have to say the right thing, and like people just hear you and
Mhm.
just allow you to take up space. Like teaching women how to take up space is
Mm.
Mhm.
so cool to watch. It's so
Mhm.
cool to watch when you see a woman start to talk and then she's like, "Oh, okay," and you start to see like the body changes and she starts to show, "Oh, oh, oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Keep fucking talking. Talk through that discomfort. Like sit back up, put your shoulders back, put your hands down on your knees, right? Like we're here to listen. Just take up the space." Um
Mhm.
like there's nothing like that watching somebody come in here and completely turn into this woman that like is so fucking unapologetic. Like that's my like seeing other women like win in that way and like
Mhm.
transform in that way. I'm like, this was it. This is what I'm supposed to
What
do.
what happens to those women when they finally take up space? What are you noticing?
Um, their whole lives change. Their
Mm.
their whole lives change. And sometimes it's scary because now they're
Mm.
having more fights with their husband. They're, having uncomfortable conversations at work. They have more time for themselves. They are coming out on the other side like, "Oh shit, this is scary. I don't know what's gonna happen." But I'm like, but do you know who you are?" So, because
Yeah.
uh, there's beliefs and there's values. So this belief, like I believed that I had to be an EMT or I had to grow up and do like emergency medical services to be loved, to feel that sense of family. That was a belief I had.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's not true. It's
Mhm.
not true to who I am as a person, you know? And
What do you have
the
to do
things
to
that,
get be loved? I'm curious, like, what do you feel that do you sense that, like, from an embodied part now?
yeah, you just have to exist, you
Mm. Mhm.
Does that
You
love
Mhm.
come
don't
from
have
you?
ah. No, I think I'm still borrowing it from other people. It's this borrowed
Yeah.
belief, I call it.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm borrowing that for myself right now as I learn to love myself and have compassion for myself now, because I think the biggest detriment to women on an emotional level is shame.
Mm.
Mhm.
And internalized shame turns into mental health, not only like mental health struggles, anxiety, depression, you're talking about burnout, you're talking about physical ailments that you don't have places for, you're talking about disease, you're talking about cancers, you're talking about like shame will destroy you. So I've had so many people call me Heather, especially. She, even more recently in the last couple weeks, was like, "You don't have to do anything to be loved by me. You don't have there's nothing you could do to disappoint me, that like, I love you just as you are." And I'm
Mm.
like, that is a very new concept. It's a very new concept in my relationship, even with my husband. I've been with him for going on 8 years.
Mm.
And, like feeling like I don't contribute in the same way financially as he does, like that feels like that's a detriment. And I'm supposed to do more and be more and show up more and work more to be able to prove. And he's like, you don't have to do that. That's
Mm.
not why I married you. Like your inherent value doesn't come from what you can provide financially, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, that's not why I'm with you. So it's like I keep having these reminders like baked into my day and these reminders of like, you just have to fucking exist and people will love you, Jess. So it's
Mhm.
like getting more comfortable with that is is hard. I mean, it's
Well, the
very
right
hard.
people will love you, and the people who aren't the right people, you're gonna come off as a villain
As
too,
a
correct? Yeah.
Oh
Mm.
my God. There are so many people, if you're like, if you ever mention my name in that room, oh, I'm an asshole. Oh, she's such a, oh my God. Oh my God. She's such an asshole. Right. And um, I am learning to just be okay with that. I don't have to like tell my side of the story to try to make up for like what people like. If you believe that, then who am
Mm.
I to try to convince you? I'm not here to convince anybody of my inherent value to you.
Mm.
Like that's not my job. My job
Mhm.
is to just show up and exist. And that's the thing. And even the people that think I'm a fucking asshole, like I have a lot of love for them. And I think they have their own like I do, like you do, like the both of you do. We all have our own sets of traumas, our own sets of perspectives, behavioral patterns, ways that we grew up. People see you not as you are necessarily. They see
Mhm.
you as they
Yeah.
perceive you.
Mhm.
So if you have in your mind that I'm this person that I'm not, I know like with to my core, my value system. If you don't see that, if that is not that, if I'm not doing a good, right? It's like, am I not doing a good job of showing people who I am? No, 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 no. It's the wrong people then.
Yeah.
Like you said,
Mm.
it's just the wrong people. The
Yeah.
right people will love you right. The wrong people won't know how to. And those are the people
Mm.
that like you can't keep around long term. And it's hard, and
Yeah.
it's hard when it's like people that are like baked into your history or they're your family, right?
Mhm.
Like I
Yeah.
can't I can't help like I can't help it in some instances where it's like if you can't see me the way that I am, I'm not here to prove something to you. I have a lot of love for you, but I gotta love you over there. That's how I feel about my
Yeah.
mom. Like I gotta love you over there. We're never going to be able to see each other in this way. And maybe we can. Maybe we can have a conversation one day. I don't know. But like all the falling outs and the friends, like I used to be concerned. I'm like, oh my God, are people are going to think that like I don't know how to keep friends because I've had a lot of falling outs. And the more
Mm.
I up level and the more that I do, like, not do for myself, but like uncover more of who I am and share
Mm.
more of who I am, the more it makes some people uncomfortable. And then
Mm.
there's narratives and then there's things that are, and I'm like, I can't control that. Can't
No.
not control that,
You know what I hear, Jess, is so cool is that we were talking about where does that love and acceptance come from? Does it come from you? And you said it's actually coming from your other friends at this moment, friends that you
Yeah.
now know you can trust. And that
Mm.
Yeah.
to me speaks to the importance of community and the kind of community that
Yes.
you're wanting to
Mm.
build is so
Yes.
that that community holds space
Yes.
to that loving space for others to stand in themselves, to be
Yes.
themselves wholly and fully. So
Mhm.
I think that's a beautiful thing about the kind of work you're doing. But I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, like,
Mm,
about what you think the effects of how the dark sides of the feminine divine has
mm,
have been sublimated
mm.
into things like the image of a Virgin Mary who is very pure and demure and subservient,
Yep.
where the more fierce and frightful parts of, say, like the
Mhm.
triple faces of Hecate, how
Yeah.
that have been pushed away into the side and aren't accepted in the mainstream. What do you think have been the effects of that, or do you think there have been effects of that on femininity and women and across the board?
Yeah. I mean, yes. the the simple answer is yes. Um, I've been unpacking this myself. I've been unpacking the word feminism because um I feel like what the word means and how it's represented is two different things sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if I resonate with like being a feminist. I don't know if that I resonate with that. And when I think about, obviously what it represents, what feminism, like the definition of feminism, like, oh yeah, yep, I agree with that. Yeah. Um, and I think that where I struggle is like, I don't want to be equal to this, like, again, like what we were talking about earlier. Like, I don't want to be equal to that. I don't want to be
Mm,
equal to like what is happening around us. You know what I mean? So it's like
mm,
this very interesting concept of like breaking that down. But like we were when I think about like the divine feminine and I think about the history, I wanted to say out loud, if you have not read The Women Who Run with the Wolves, I'm sure you've heard of that book. Uh it is this beautiful like breakdown of these stories of like again like how women were perceived but what like there's like deeper meaning and all that and
mhm,
um I think we were just domesticated. I don't know how
mm,
else to say, like, we were, yes, we were suppressed, we weren't erased entirely, but we were just, like, to your point, like the virgin, we were just like domesticated.
Mhm.
Um, and
mm,
we're not one-dimensional beings, like, there's so many layers to us, and, we're not just nurturing and gentle, we're also fierce and protective and destructive and
Mhm.
sexual and deeply, like, connected to these, like, the life cycles, right? Life and death, and so the goddesses that, like, or, like, embody, um, they embody, like, the full human experience of women. Um, and they are harder to control, and because of that, we have to, like, make them into something that is again, just, like, digestible. Because, everyone's talking about a matriarchy, and I'm like, "Can we just give that a go? Can we just see what happens?" And not, and I'm not saying that we need to, like, again, because I don't believe, I think that men have their own conditioning. I
mhm,
think, like, the modern like, my husband, it is a gem, like, I think there's, like, this underlying tone of, like, hatred to men that I don't agree with. And he when we talk about stuff, he's like, I can't wait to like think about raising our daughter to be like super powerful and like get her into jujitsu because I do jujitsu and like getting her into jujitsu and like showing her that anything is possible. She can do anything it doesn't matter. Male, female doesn't matter. Like she has the ability to do anything. So yeah, I think we were like reshaped into something that was softer and quieter and more accommodating. And, the nurturing mother was celebrated, but the woman
Mhm.
who spoke up
mm,
about the truths were feared, right? They were witches. They were burned, and ridiculed and killed. Like there was just that. we need like a whole nother hour just to talk about this, guys. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I could really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so the parts that like that have remained are the ones that served and that were obedience and that were stable, and like that's kind of what we've been left with. And it's
Mhm.
very cool to think about that. Like we live in a generation now where there had to be women before us that got louder, got more bitchy, quote unquote. They got, you
Mhm.
know, they did things out of the quote unquote norm so we can have the opportunity to speak up and to stand up and to defend ourselves. Like, I help teach self-defense classes to women. And the first thing we talk about is boundaries. Assessing a room, yes, but like how you set a physical boundary with your body
Mm.
before anything even needs to get physical. And like knowing that it's actually using your voice and speaking up and fighting back will actually save your life. We're taught as young girls, just lay there and let him take and just take it. Just let him do whatever he's going to do, and then he'll leave you alone. That's not actually true. And there's science that says that. The science says you're actually more likely to survive an assault if you speak up.
Mm.
So
Huh.
when I think about this in practice, like I honestly, almost a year ago to the date, I had a really scary experience at Teen Tarot in Madison. I was waiting for someone to come in for an interview, and I had sent everybody home. It was a weird day. So there was only like a 10-minute little stint where I was alone. And it was in that 10 minutes, somebody came in, made me very uncomfortable, started asking me a lot of questions. Like this man that was looking for one of our readers, and like was not honoring boundaries, was not honoring pushback. And I was like, I have to figure out now how I'm going to fight this guy and hope that somebody comes in while this is happening. Like I don't think men realize the amount of things that go through our head when we are,
Mm.
I just watched a video on like a woman going for a run, all the things that are in her mind when she's going for a run. Right. It's like the amount of processing that has to happen, the things you have to think about. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to kick him down the stairs. I'm gonna have to call 911. I'm gonna have to like all these things. And she happened to walk in and she caught the interaction. And I looked at her, and there's like this unspoken thing with women, right? It's like, I'll be right with you. And I like looked at her and I looked at him and I looked back at her and she just nodded. And I was like, cool, we're on the same page now. She knows something's up.
Mhm.
Right. And I'm like, this woman may have just saved my life. And I don't even know. All I know is her name. And I just, so that is like deeply embedded into us as women. And
Mhm.
we're not talking enough about, like, we always talk about 1 in 3 women are assaulted. Can we talk about how many men assault? Can we talk about how
Right.
many men in a group of men assault women? Right.
Mhm.
Um, so it's like this deeply, again, it's this deeply buried, and it's like this conditioning that some of it we can't unlearn because we're not safe enough to actually unlearn it.
Huh.
Some of it
Hmm.
we can release, we can let go of. Um, so um, it's this balance of like what's needed and what isn't.
Yeah. Jess, can you say more about anger as a pathway to liberation? That's not your word, but healing,
Yeah,
especially women's anger, in
yeah,
this era when, as you said, like so many things are falling apart or being exposed, really, for the like to have all these rotten foundations, right? I think
yeah,
that we're just living in an era where the conspiracy theorists are kind of right, have been right about a lot of things. Um,
yeah,
and just yeah, so I'm just interested about it, anger as a path to healing.
yeah. Well, it's what I found, and as I've done some rage rituals here at my house.
Mm,
Um, and something that I unpacked live with them is that, like, if anger has been directed at you unsafely, it can be very hard to like unpack it for yourself and like
yeah.
know what to do with it in a way that feels like right. Because it's kind of been embedded in us that it's unacceptable.
Mhm.
And it really is one of the most like intelligent emotions that we have
Mhm.
because it
Mhm.
tells us something. It puts a spotlight on like, okay, what's wrong, what's
Mhm.
unsafe, what's unfair, if a boundary has been crossed. And that, I mean, for men and women, you know what I mean? Anger is useful, right? Because I think
Mhm.
it's going to spark change. You can do something really
Mhm.
tangible with anger, and you can turn it into something that's very you can alchemize it into something really, really
Mm.
beautiful when you unpack it. So when you recognize that and you're like, I don't, because and anger is one of those things that like if you don't do anything with it and you sit and it festers, like it
Mhm.
really will. It very quickly will make you very. It can make you very sick.
Mhm.
So I think that we as women don't realize how mad we are,
Mm.
and we're just like, shove it down. It's fine. It's okay. I don't have to feel it this deeply. Is that right? And so it's like you just keep deeply burying it and burying it. And then like every year we do a pumpkin smashing event. So you buy a
Oh, I
bunch of
love that.
pumpkins. Yeah. I get some bats, you
That
know.
sounds fun.
It's a lot of fun. And we go out in my backyard and I go, so what are you smashing? And they're like, "I'm smashing this anxiety I'm feeling. Okay, all right. I'm smashing this relationship that I don't want to be. Okay, like all of these, like, and all valid, all right. And then you put a fucking bat in their hand, and I'll never forget one of my girls picked up the bat and like swung it around, and she's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna like this." And I went, "You are." And now you have 11, 12, 13 women in your backyard screaming at the top of their lungs, smashing the shit out of it. And now there's like no pumpkin left, and they're like just smashing the ground. And they're so empowered afterward. And I was like, so what are you smashing now? And they're
Yeah.
like, this anger I have to my father. I can't believe he treated me that way. Right. It's like I think that's the thing. It's like we don't realize how much of it actually lives
Mhm.
in there and we just suppress
Yeah.
it. Um, and it's a really beautiful thing when you just watch a woman undo that and unravel that. And then there's aftercare, right? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, we've just processed all of this shit. Like we gotta, like I always keep an eye on everybody. I have a big group chat. I'm like, how we doing? Where are we at? How we
Mm.
feeling? I'm not a therapist, obviously, but I teach a lot about somatics and feeling things in the body. And it's like when you can just let go of it, you have all this space now. And you're like,
Mm.
well, I don't know what to do with this. Or like, this feels weird. And because as women, we internalize everything, we hold on to fucking everything. And it's usually at the expense of ourselves to keep other people fucking comfortable. And
Mhm.
so
Mm.
when you stop, I've never been more angry in my life than I have in the last 8 years with my husband. And I'm not mad at him, but I am in a safe relationship, which I've never had in my life to this degree. And nobody tells you how scary it is to get into a good relationship when you don't
Mm.
know good. So now I'm just like, I'm screaming at him. I'm getting angry at him. And he's like, why are you so angry? Like, you're scaring me. Why are you so angry? And I'm like, oh, um, I don't want to scare you like my mother scared me,
Mm.
but that's what this is.
Mm.
Mhm.
So it's like unpack. I'm like, I feel safe enough to like fucking scream at him. And I'm like, and I'm not trying, it's not right. I don't want to
Mhm.
be taking this out on you. I'm not trying to take this out on you. It's like, it's safe enough to do though, because I know he's not going to leave my ass. He's going to let me sit and process it. And he's going to be
Mhm.
like, okay, do you want to talk about it?
Mhm.
How do you feel about it? Do you feel better? Do you like, do we need to call your therapist? Do we want to go get some ice cream? Like when I tell you he's a gem. Okay. So it's help, but I realized I'm like, I have this like underlying, just like, I feel pissed a lot, you know? So it's like, just let yourself be mad, whatever that looks like. Like, just let yourself
Mhm.
be it and move it through your body and alchemize it into something better. Do something with it. You know what I mean? Like, move it along and do something with it
Mm.
You know,
because,
I'm gonna maybe make a connection that isn't. correct. So correct me if I'm wrong,
Hmm.
but I'm remembering like back when you were a kid and you were experiencing all of these things that you later kind of pushed down because you didn't want to experience,
Uh-huh.
seeing the future or seeing a person, a dead person or something along those lines. You said
Uh-huh.
that there was a kind of this entity that you kind of created
Uh-huh.
from anger. I might suggest maybe was that from anger that couldn't be expressed towards your
Hmm.
family, or and maybe not. But I'm just
Mm.
was wondering if there was something there in the way that what happens when anger is dealt with and then repressed, as opposed to when anger is dealt with but expressed in some healthy or ways.
Mm.
Mm.
I never thought about it as anger. My initial thought was sadness is just like not even the right word, but it's like
Mm,
feeling like perpetually scared of
Mhm.
like
mm,
my mom.
Mhm.
yeah.
So it's like it was like a manifestation of that. You know what I mean? Was there
Uh-huh.
anger? Oh god, absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I wonder if it was like I think it's like a culmination of like how it's been simplified to me is this thing was a manifestation of the trauma that you were experiencing. So all of it,
Mm.
however, whatever
All of it.
feelings, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I just remember being a very, very scared little girl. I was scared
Mm,
all of the time. And
mhm,
when I wasn't is when I was like caring for my brother or like taking care of him or um like the thing about home videos will catch you if you're not fucking ready for it. My dad from time to time sends me home videos that we have and I'm always like, my brother be like, "Mom or Dad," I'd be like, "What do you need, Joe?" "Joey, what do you need?" And like going over and helping him or like I was
Mm.
just always around him. I always felt like again I needed to have this purpose of like keeping him safe because I felt
mm.
so deeply unsafe.
Mhm.
Um so it's really interesting. I never it's another thing, just another thing to
Well,
think about, but like I never thought of
maybe
it
it's
that
like a
way.
was it like kind of repression of like pushing it inside as opposed to letting it
Oh
out?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah. I had nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's
And
I
I
mean, yeah. And you having the abilities that you do of you
Mhm.
probably created something like a bit of an egregore or something that was
I
there
knew you were gonna
from
go
that
there, Faith. I
repression.
knew you were gonna go there.
yeah,
Jess, we have stumbled into one
yeah.
of Faith's most. She's so interested in egregores. We have to do an
Uh,
entire other conversation about egregores.
I don't even
Anyway,
know
I
what that
knew you were
is,
saying
but it
that.
sounds cool.
Oh man, oh man.
I'm so predictable.
No, no, no. I feel that I
Yeah.
know you. And know you and
Yeah,
love you.
yeah.
I
No,
love that.
egregores are a type of thought form that kind of a I'm losing the word right now, but it's a thought form that becomes its own entity. It's,
Mm,
separate from the person who created it. And it's, I mean, it
okay.
sounds spooky and weird and scary, but it's nothing different than,
Mm-mm.
say, like a cultural zeitgeist of the time or something.
Yeah,
There's energy or the collective unconscious or something,
yeah,
that's there that's broadly speaking a set of emotions or ideas or something that gets
yeah,
formed through this collective and then starts to act upon people
Yeah, it
or the
takes on a
collective.
life of its
So
own. Yeah.
yes,
I've
yes,
I've
exactly.
seen this happen before, and I didn't know
Hmm.
there was a word for it. So that's interesting. Well, you learn something new every day. I
Yeah.
love that. That's
Let me tell you, Jess, Faith, we call her the mystical librarian because she is the
that's so awesome.
yeah, she is mapping this mapping the spiritual world.
The spiritual world, yeah.
I love that.
The physical
I love
world is being
that.
mapped too. As we're kind of moving towards I mean, we literally, yes, we could talk for another like
Talk
5
forever.
hours. Um, but I wanted to, because we'll ask you in just a few moments,
Mhm.
sort of next steps and how to follow you because you have a TED talk that's going to come out, and we were talking about,
Yeah.
the book that might be manifesting. Um,
Yeah.
I am just curious though because I really want to lay into this and to underscore it. The idea of becoming a victim, of going from being a victim to being a villain. Like
Mhm.
if someone wanted to start on that journey,
Mhm.
because I think that's such a of course it's like such a beautiful, I mean, just the words are arresting, right? Going from
Mhm.
victim to villain, I think
Mhm.
especially for people who have been conditioned,
Yep.
um, as most women are, and then you add, like, religious and faith overlays to that, right, which we touched on
Yep.
earlier. So
Mhm.
I just wondered if you have any, general advice or guidance or wisdom about moving from victim to villain, like, taking that first step.
Yeah. So I think when you finally realize that something needs to change and the way that you've been living, right? I know it's like such a basic way of saying it, but I think
Mm,
when you can finally start to realize that, like, we were just talking about anger. Anger protects boundaries. So if you don't have any
yeah,
boundaries, how can you start to understand why? What do you still resonate with? Like,
yeah.
within yourself, like what contract did you sign with yourself that says
Mm,
that, like, I'm supposed to be this way, right? Teaching a woman about her intuition. Intuition protects
yeah,
safety.
right.
So how can we connect to our nervous system and, again, our beliefs and our value system, and recognize that, like, oh, okay, um like, my only goal that I've been trying to, like, really truthfully is, like, how can I begin to feel safe in my body again? I want to help other women see that that is
Mm,
possible for them. Um
mhm,
Recognizing that, like, a lot of us are codependent in ways that, like, we need certain things from other people to feel good about ourselves,
mhm,
and having being able to be, like, independent, and not in the way of, like, you don't need anybody, because I don't believe in that shit either. Like, we live in that culture bad enough, and
mhm.
we are a culture of human connection, but, like, independence within the self
Yeah,
allows us to make better choices, to make more aligned choices. So
yeah.
when we're living in, like, the shadows of ourselves, we end up feeling like disconnected from that. So
Mhm.
a lot of the women that I end up like connecting with that come to this class is like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like, I don't know what I like.
Hmm.
I don't know. I can't set a boundary. I can't. I'm working way too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we end up having a bunch of, like, women that are just performing. And a perform, I use
Mm.
that word a lot, but it is. It feels like a
Mhm.
performance. It doesn't feel real to, like, who we are.
Yeah.
So, they've lost this access to their femininity, and that's something that I'm also trying to, like, understand on a deeper level what that means. And, like, so I don't necessarily teach that part, but I feel like I'm somebody who does believe that, like, one choice to make a decision can lead to a bunch of other ones and can open
Yeah.
the doors for so many other things. So when I think about, like, women really reclaiming themselves today, I don't see them as, like, trying to become something new or, like, a newer version of
Mhm.
themselves, but, like, remembering who they are.
Mhm.
And that they removed so many pieces of themselves again to just feel good about, like, or to make other people comfortable, and that was never the point. So it's like really teaching women how to um integrate and
Mhm.
understand, and, like, take all of these shadow parts and befriend them, understand them, pull up a seat for them,
Mhm.
integrate them into who you are. Um, like, teaching them to be compassionate with themselves. And recognizing that all of these other emotions have a place to sit too. Anger has a place to sit. Like, especially anger. So, we were meant to be whole, not this,
Mm.
like, tamed version of ourself that we feel like we're supposed to be. But it's hard when it's so ingrained, and you have to want to change. That's the
Mm.
thing. Like, this is not this on paper. When women read this, they're like, oh yeah, I want that. And then they
Mhm.
show up, and then I'm like, you have to take responsibility for the role that you've played in your own healing or not healing. Like, you have to really look at yourself and go, "Ooh, yep, I got to own that. I got to own that. And, not everybody makes it through the end with me,
Mhm.
because it's work. And this isn't all, I try to make it fun. I really think that healing can be fun. I find different ways to do that. And, there's something though about being seen and witnessed again by other people. That's where having the right people around you literally
Mm,
can just change your whole entire life. So I think it's when you decide, it really is just deciding like you're done. I'm done living like this. I don't want this life anymore to be the life that I said that I lived. Like I'm not living in my life in alignment. And recognizing that like even after, I've run this so many times in different ways, like your life isn't gonna like I'm not saying like boop, magic pill, I got the magic pill and you're everything's great. It's really when like the work starts after we're done. Because now you have all of these new sets of skills that you get to put out and test and try in the world, and slowly become this version of yourself that like you can be. And I think you just need 1% of yourself to do so, because that was the 1% that saved my life.
mm,
And that's all you really need. You just like 1% of me thinks I deserve better, knows I deserve better.
mm.
So, um, how can I act on that 1% until 1% maybe turns to two? Like, again, you don't have to like come into this being like, I love myself. And a lot of women, unfortunately, don't. There's so many women that don't even look in the fucking mirror. I learned that. I didn't realize
Mhm,
that people don't like women don't look at them because they don't want to look at themselves.
mhm,
Like we have to shift that. We have to shift
Mm,
that. So this is something that I mean, I'm going to be 34 this year. This is not something that I, expected that my life would turn into, but it's like been truthfully like the last 6 years. And I still got ways to go. So when I meet somebody who's 57, or I've had somebody in here that's 71, 72 years old sitting in circle. Okay.
mhm,
Like it doesn't matter. You could start at any age. It doesn't matter what your background is, what happened to you. You have to be willing though to just like we
mhm.
gotta we gotta let it go. We have to like give voice to what happened, and then we have to like have a funeral, and we need to put it to rest, like cuz
Yeah.
a lot of us live in stories. We just live in this culmination of stories. So, um yeah.
Well, Jess, you are doing the work of the wild holy. I feel like there's no doubt there's no doubt about that.
yeah.
And to me, holiness and wholeness and wildness all feel like the same thing, right? Which is like
Yes. Yeah.
living to our capacity, living deeply authentically, and just
Yeah.
always being on a journey. Like it's never ending.
Nope.
Um, so if people are interested in, hot takes on healing, if they're interested in the circles you run, where and how can
Yeah.
we find you?
Made it really easy, jessleone.com. You literally could find
Yep.
everything is there. I'm always updating it. I'm always adding on, especially because a lot of people that I would love to reach don't necessarily live in Connecticut where I am. So adding things on virtually for women to attend. Hot Takes on Healing is on there. That is my podcast that essentially we're like decentering all the things we think we're supposed to do
Mm,
to feel better and having the hard conversations, sharing. It's a community podcast. So I share people's personal stories of how they have, overcome some big major thing in their life or whatever that looks like for them. Um, and just continuing the conversation that like it's not all I'm not rainbows and butterflies, y'all. I don't walk around pretending to be, and there's nothing wrong with people who are like that. But I don't believe in gurus. I don't believe that there's one way to do things. I think that that is a beautiful thing about spirituality and witchcraft, is that we get to make it ours, and it's very personal to us. So like teaching other women about that. Eventually the TEDx talk will be on there, I'm sure, when that rolls around. I have some merch, like my shirt I'm wearing right now. I don't know if you were able to
it's
read it.
I
awesome.
don't
Yeah.
I
Um,
don't play the victim. I'm very much the villain. Nice.
so I'm like I gotta represent today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have a whole bunch of stuff. I have a whole bunch of stuff on there, and yeah, I'm trying to build community of outside of just Connecticut. I would love to reach more women internationally, globally. That would be amazing. So yeah, jessleone.com. That's where you can find everything. I keep it very simple, very
Well,
simple.
Well, Jess, we are
Great.
so pleased that you came to talk to us and spent your time. And I'm going to say this in my words, like I wish you so many blessings
Thanks.
as you do this work. And thank you for doing this work and for allowing your own pain to be transmuted into other people's liberation and healing. That's such holy
Thank you.
work. And we're so excited to see what the Wild Holy will do with you next. And you with the
Thank
Wild
you so
Holy.
much. Thank you.
Thank
This means a
Thank
you.
lot.
you.
Thank
This
you,
is
Jess.
so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.